Well, here we are at the finish stage at City Dock in Annapolis, Maryland, with a very special guest, Simon Potter. Thanks very much for coming out and joining us, Simon.
You're welcome.
Maybe we could get that microphone working for you. Yeah, actually, very soon. There you go. Very soon. All right, Simon, we are back live now. We're expecting Svata Bozak coming in probably within the next hour, and he's going to be followed by a couple of other riders, Nicole Reese, and then we've got a relay team right in there with them. Don't know where the relay team's actually going to be. But Simon, you had quite the experience this year. You actually came over not feeling all that great, correct?
Yeah, that's right. The difficult thing is that when you put so much time in to prepare for the race, you kind of have to throw those unwell feelings out the window as such. We were in Borrego Springs for about 5 days, where I picked up a bit of a chest infection. Just tried to get rid of it really before the start, so we actually didn't do much mileage on the bike. Got over to the start and just tried to keep things really kind of chill, not too much riding, and just hope for the best, really hope we'd got a shot of it. But, turns out midway through the race that caught up with me.
Yeah, Simon, based on your accent, you're from Texas, correct? Where in the UK are you?
I'm about 2 hours to the west of London in Hampshire, basically.
Now, I remember hearing your name a lot in 2020 doing virtual RAAM, and you actually had a really good ride.
Yeah, that's correct. I won the virtual Raw, so it was actually quite nice to do the real course this time and go a bit further. But yeah, I mean, two completely different races, but for anyone that ever said the virtual racing was easy, well, you're completely wrong.
No, I always am like, if you have to ask somebody who does RAW or RAM why, it's hard to answer that question, but I'm not even going to ask why you did virtual. That seems insane. But coming over here for this, I mean, you put in years of training and effort to get out here, and to come down with something that's going to weaken you before you go into the start of this thing, which is going to be tough enough as it is, that had to really hit you mentally.
Yes and no, because I'm a firm believer if something's out of your control, there's no point in worrying about it. You know, we did everything we could to make me in as good a condition as possible before the start. You know, there is nothing more we could have done. That chest infection, we tried to make recover as much as possible. So I just had to kind of take it on the chin and get on with it.
And what kind of temperatures had you been training in back home?
Back home, probably could only get as high as 80, which was the whole idea of spending time in Borrego. Borrego, it was up to 105, 106. And although we weren't riding, it was just good to be in those temperatures. So I do think we did a good amount of acclimatization there. But ultimately, I don't think it's necessarily the heat that was the issue to make the chest infection worse, but often it was more just the dry air.
I was going to say the dry air would be what would get you.
Yeah, 100%. That was giving me all sorts of issues. You know, I'm trying to cough, and it's just nothing happening. And you know, every time you're coughing, you make your lungs and your back, you know, the other muscles in your back sore. So your body's suddenly fighting multiple things. You know, what starts off as just a small cough actually escalates more and more as you go on, because all these other side little effects start happening.
So you had some great competitors out there, plus people that you competed in virtual RAW. Phil Fox, what was that like actually being out on the road competing with him live?
Racing with Phil's been amazing. We've chatted a lot, obviously pre-RAAM. He's a great buddy of mine. My brother's from Chicago, so I actually catch up with Phil in Chicago, and we're actually planning to spend some time after the race together. We were always, my crew will tell you, every time we were I was asking for an update on the race. It wasn't, you know, how far ahead is someone. It was normal, and it wasn't in a racing context. It was, how's Phil getting on? It was purely, you know, as a friend, I wanted to make sure he was okay. It was a how's Phil getting on, and I know he was doing the same. So I know his team were gutted when I had to pull out and withdraw, and it was, you know, I was really chuffed to see him carry on. We were really fortunate in that we actually got to catch up on the course.
Oh, nice.
We met Phil at about, I'm trying to think where it was, way past Kansas, but probably about mile 2000. Caught up with Phil in a McDonald's toilets. And he was actually just having his rear dressed. And we just had this emotional embrace in a toilet. And there was a tear shed, and even with his crew chief, a tear shed. Those guys were gutted for me, but at the same time, it was so great for me to see him still riding and still riding strong. And there's definitely a friendship, a massive bond between us for life.
Now, speaking of Phil's saddle sores, Jim Reese, your crew chief, said, I had to ask you about yours. I said, no way am I going to bring up Simon's saddle sores at all on the loudspeaker. But Jim Reese said, yes, you need to bring up Simon's saddle sores. But we're not going to talk about those. What I do want to mention, though, is you obviously had other things going on with your body other than just lungs that you needed to worry about. As you start to disintegrate, as you said, you know, you weren't just here to finish. You wanted to be competitive. You're a bike racer. And as you felt that, what's that like for you mentally to just be going, oh, my gosh, now this is going wrong. We're going to try to fix it. I mean, how did you deal with that?
It was really quite hard, actually, because although I was feeling slightly rubbish, I was mentally very positive throughout the race. We had one great night heading into Kansas where I was just feeling great, and I just put the hammer down for 100 miles, closed in on, I think, right up onto second place. We overtook Bozak, and we decided to go down for a 90-minute sleep, and then woke up, I think, in third position, ready to push on. I just got on the bike, but at that point there, my body just shut down. And that's really, I think, at that point where my head started to go, because, like you say, all those little ailments suddenly, when you're feeling great, you can kind of push through them. But when you're suffering, everything suffers with you. You know, I can feel the numbness in my hands, the numbness in my feet. Saddle sores, you know, it's like sitting on razor blades. You just can't find a comfortable position. The prevailing crosswinds in Kansas started playing havoc on my neck because, you know, you're riding at a constant angle and your body's twisted and you're holding your head up. It's brutal. There's no other way to say it. It's brutal.
So does that motivate you to want to come back and try this again after some other work for your body to get more prepared for what RAAM's going to throw at you, or was this you're going to need to think about it for a while?
Oh, no, for sure I'll be back.
Absolutely, I thought so.
There's no question. It might not be straight away. There's a few other things, and, you know, as you know, RAAM's a huge commitment financially and time, and I've sacrificed the last 3 years, and with that sacrifice comes friendships and lots of other things like that. So there's a bit of few things I want to catch up on in life. But for sure, I'll be back. You can't get it out your blood.
Well, Simon, congratulations on
Cheers,
2,000
buddy.
miles of racing. It's good to have you here, and we are going to see you when Phil comes in.
Well, I hope so.
All right.
If not, I'll be seeing him in Chicago, and we'll be celebrating for sure on 4th of July.
Awesome. Thank
Cheers.
you. Simon
Thank you.
Potter joining us at the finish line in Annapolis. Thanks very much for tuning in. Svata Bozak, Nicole Reese, and relay team coming in soon hereafter.